because it can go.
This is oral presentation number 13, the North Attleboro, Massachusetts team. This is a Mission 5 flight experiment.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lily Wetherbee.
And I'm Christopher April.
And our co-investigator, David Pachito, sadly couldn't make it today.
Next slide, please. The question we researched is, will the regeneration rate of a planarian worm be affected by microgravity? The long-term value of this experiment is to see if we can heal a cut or wound in microgravity. Also, this could help us increase the rate in which we heal cuts or wounds in microgravity. Next slide, please.
Did you know the planarian worm has an amazing ability to regenerate? To that point, if you were to cut the worm in half, the head would grow a tail and the tail would grow a head. You can find a planarian worm in a lake under a rock. However, we got our planarian worms from Carolina Biological. Planarian worms are free-living and are scavengers. They eat dead, decaying organisms. In their natural habitat, the amazing planarian worm can pull its tail from its head and regenerate itself. This process is called binary fission. Next slide, please.
Our original experimental design involved cutting the worms in half, but the regeneration rate of the planarian worm is too fast for the amount of time that would be on the ISS. We needed a solution that would take a longer amount of time to occur. We called Dr. Alejandro Sanchez Alvarado, an expert in planarian worms, for help. He told us about the process of binary fission because it takes about a month to occur. Another roadblock we faced was when we tried to chill the worms, but the worms died because of a sudden drop in temperature. Next slide, please.
Right away, when we received the worms, we had to get them used to the condition that they will be in at the ISS. First, we had to make sure we changed the worms' water every other day and crowd them in 1 milliliter of water per worm. We also had to starve them to make sure there will be no waste in the water. After this, we gradually crowded them even more. We put 3 worms per milliliter of water, and 3 to 4 days before we shipped them off, we had to cool down the water so the regeneration time is slower than normal. We've been training worms for months, and every time the launch is delayed, we have to refill a new tube and make sure the worms are trained. Next slide, please.
For volume 1, we left it empty. For volume 2, we put our 6 planarian worms with 2 milliliters of Fiji water. Finally, in volume 3, we put our 1.5 milliliters of neutral buffered formalin. During the flight, the astronaut will unclamp clamp B, mixing the worms in the formalin. This will terminate our experiment, preserving the worms in their current state, so we'll be able to observe what regeneration had taken place aboard the ISS. Back in school, our control will be assembled in the same way. Next slide, please.
When our experiment returns to Earth, we expect to only see 6 worms. We think this because the lack of gravitational force will affect the worms' ability to pull themselves apart. When the worms return to Earth, we will be reviewing how many worms were preserved and where their eye spots are and if there are any changes in them. We haven't got the chance to analyze yet because the worms haven't gone up to the ISS yet. However, we have set up many control experiments and we will be comparing our most recent control to our spaceflight experiment. We expect our control experiment on Earth to have 12 worms due to binary fission and Earth has more gravity. Next slide, please.
We would like to thank all of our sponsors and donors, and a special thanks to our teachers that gave this opportunity to us. Thank you. That will be concluding our slides.
Thank you.
Question for the North Attleboro team. Okay, before the first question, let me just say a couple things. We have never, ever seen a community that worked so hard to make this happen. I mean, I forgot how many local partners North Attleboro had, and it was just amazing to see that. All of these little companies step into the plate to make this happen for you. Your expert that you are making, that you've got a collaboration with, what was the professor's name again?
Dr. Alejandro Sanchez Alvarado.
He is known as one of the world's leading experts in planarian worm regeneration. Truly. And so one of the questions I have for everybody is, how many of you reached out to local area researchers as advisors on your projects? They're the unsung heroes, because there have been hundreds of researchers that have given of their time and released time from their host organizations to work with these students to provide laboratory facilities, be used as sounding boards for ideas, serve on the step 1 review panels. But we have to find a creative way to thank all of them for what they have done for this initiative. So with that, let me open up the first question.
I'm Colton from Brookhaven, Mississippi, and a team of mine submitted a similar proposal, except using sponges, as you see sponges, to regenerate in the FME in outer space. Unfortunately, we weren't selected. But I was just wondering, after the preliminary return to Earth, once you analyzed your data, gathered your information, what do y'all intend to do with that information, and if it is, how is it useful? Because that was a problem we said, because one of the reasons we didn't get selected was if once we got our sponges back, what would we do with that? I mean, was there any purpose?
Once we get the worms back, we're going to see if they did regenerate, and we're going to observe them and where their eye spots are, because those change too. And this will help us, like I said in slide 1, like if we can cut or root of microgravity, stuff like that, and the rate in which we feel cuts towards the microgravity.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Cheyenne from Rochester, New York, and my question is, why did you use Fiji water, and what was the difference between using the Fiji water versus a regular tap water?
Well, we just didn't want them to, because the minerals in them might have affected how we kept them alive and stuff, so we didn't want them to have any, exposure to anything yet, so that's a good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the North Attleboro team? All right, let's thank North Attleboro. Next is oral presentation 14.
Coding as a corrosion inhibitor in a microgravity environment. Next slide, please. Our rationale. What we're testing. A well-known rust preventing